Welcome to this episode of our program, Daily Debate. Before I start with our discussion, let me first say that our team are playing now, this very particular time in the semi-final in the Cameroon, with Cameroon. So with God's will, we wish them all the best tonight. In our first segment, we'll be speaking about the President's visit to China to attend the 24th edition of the Beijing Winter Olympics, which is taking place on Friday at the invitation of the Chinese President Xi Jinping, of course affirming the strategic and partnership relations between Egypt and China. During the visit, the President will be holding a summit talks with his Chinese counterpart to discuss bilateral relations, which has really witnessed a qualitative leap at all levels over the past years in a way that achieves the mutual interests of the two countries and the peoples. To highlight the visit of the President to China, we have with us over the phone Her Excellency Ambassador Mirvat Talawi, former Assistant Foreign Minister and former UN Under Secretary. Good evening to you, Your Excellency.
Good evening to you.
Right, we're speaking here about a very significant visit and a visit that comes at the invitation of the Chinese President to President Sisi. First, let me take your reading to this visit and its significance.
Well, it is a very important visit to have a continued meeting between the two leaders, the Egyptian and the Chinese, because many events, let's say, first of all, Egypt and China are looking for peace in their own region and in the world. They do not build their foreign policy on war and struggle and things like this. So this is one important factor that we would wish to continue to have all our foreign friends have the same policy of peace. Not war, not mercenaries, and all of the bad events that happened in the Middle East because some power is choosing to use violence, not peace. So this is an important point, although the visit is because of the sports and the Olympic, but it is to consolidate our political relation which coincide between the two countries. Number two, economic and development. Also, President Sisi, as well as the Chinese president, they are after strengthening the economic relations and production, whether it is industrial or agriculture and so on. So we have investment from China in Egypt exceeding $7 billion. Not 700 billions of dollars, and it continued to grow.
Yes.
Also, the cultural relation between as two oldest civilization, the Egyptian and the Chinese civilization. And that's why you can see in the radio and television in Egypt joint program joint cultural program to let the people know more about the Chinese situation. So I think it is wonderful that our president went to China, and definitely, as I said, it is a sport event, but they will talk politics, economic commitment, economic negotiation, cultural events, and so on. And these are reflected in the kind of contract they are signing there. So it's not only sports, but the totality of the relationship between the two countries.
Your Excellency, Egypt and China have developed a qualitative leap in relations during the past few years. How do you view that, and what contributed to such a leap?
For instance, if you look at a country like Russia, Turkey, the United States, they are interfering in the internal affairs, especially in the countries in the Middle East, in our region. And the result is mediocre. The result is terrible. For instance, America went to Afghanistan to remove Taliban after 20 years of war and spending money on personnel and on military equipment. After 20 years, they shake hands with the Taliban and they left the whole country in the hands of Taliban. And it's a zero result. The same thing in Syria, in Iraq, in Libya. These are these countries are using violence and armament as a way to dominate or to have their policy of hegemony on these countries. This did not happen with China. China goes into Africa with plenty of development projects, industrialization, investing in many development areas. So it is. That's why I said in the beginning, our policy meet with the Chinese.
Right.
We don't go and occupy other people's the land or use violence and war as a method of solving problems. So, and after after the year 2014, these different parts of our relation increased a lot between China and Egypt in many fields. They have now a very good position in the, around the Suez Canal and many other development projects that Egypt is doing. China is also supporting.
Right. Indeed, Your Excellency, the President has visited China in 2014, and the Chinese President visited Egypt in 2016, where they witnessed a number of agreements being signed. If I may ask you, how did those mutual visits contribute to such partnership or strategic relations between both countries?
Yes, this kind of bilateral visits at this very high level to the president of the country, definitely it strengthens the relation and the activities, whether it is in commerce, or industry or agriculture or any other field. It's a kind of supervising the development of this relation by the two presidents themselves. It's not at a low level, on the contrary, it's at the highest level. You've seen the president of China came to Egypt several times, and he met with President Sisi in different other international or regional meetings outside Egypt. So definitely your question is appropriate, and it's a good point to indicate that the meeting of the two presidents is a good support and is pushing the relation to advance more and more.
Yes, if we can speak about historical relations, and Egypt was the first African country, African and Arab country to establish diplomatic relations with China. Yes, and last year Egypt and China marked the 65th anniversary of the establishment of their diplomatic relations. How did we build momentum on such relations during the past years?
The point you refer to, that Egypt was the first country in the region to support the entrance of China to the United Nations. This was a great moment, a very important moment. And since then the relation is growing. It doesn't have too much publicity because it is not a war, not a battle. It is all development, and as you know, development, you cannot see the result unless a number of years have passed by, so you can see the result of all of these development projects growing. Definitely, I was ambassador to Japan, and the Japanese said we admire the Egyptian culture, civilization, especially when we knew that the Egyptian civilization is prior to the Chinese. So because they were attached to the Chinese because of the long history of their civilization. And they discovered that there is another civilization which preceded the Chinese, which is Egypt. So I think the relation, they are mutual things between Egypt and China. As I said, politically we don't interfere and we don't occupy other countries so far. And economically, we are concentrating a lot of our effort and money in development, basic infrastructure, and all kinds of support. Then nowadays, Egypt is toward having this internet used in every activity. And China with their G5 also is ahead of the United States in this G5, and they have problem with it. So at the level of the internet and computer and all this new technology, they developed a lot with Egypt.
Indeed. Ambassador Mervat Tilawi, former Assistant Foreign Minister and former UN Under-Secretary General, thank you so much for being with us over the phone. Before we move on with our discussion, let's first have this report in President Sisi in China to attend the Winter Olympics, or the 24th edition of the Winter Olympics. Let's watch.
President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi headed on Thursday to China to attend the opening ceremony of the 24th Winter Olympics, which will be held in the Chinese capital Beijing on February the 4th. Presidential spokesman Ambassador Bassam Radi stated that the president's participation in this huge global sporting event came at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping in light of the close and strategic relations between Egypt and China. Ambassador Radi said that the program of the president's visit to China also includes holding summit talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping in order to discuss ways to enhance bilateral relations, which have witnessed a qualitative leap in recent years at all levels, in a way that achieve the common interests of the two friendly countries and peoples, as well as continuing consultations and mutual coordination on a number of regional and international files of common interest. Last year, President el-Sisi has affirmed his country's keenness to advance the comprehensive strategic partnership that brings Egypt and China together to visiting Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi. El-Sisi pointed out that the bilateral relations have witnessed an extended path of cooperation and coordination between the two countries in various fields and benefit from the Chinese experience, which is a success story that the world seeks to study with the aim of advancing overall development. For his part, Wang conveyed a verbal message from President Xi Jinping, which included China's affirmation of the continued development of its strategic relations with Egypt. The minister pointed out China's respect and appreciation for el-Sisi and Egypt in its pivotal role as a fundamental pillar of stability in the Middle East region and reiterated China's support for Egypt in comprehensive development efforts, combating terrorism, and achieving security and stability in the region. Regarding the strengthening of bilateral cooperation relations between the two countries at the international level, Wang clarified the acceptance of Egypt's accession as a dialogue partner in the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, which is concerned with combating terrorism and extremism, energy, and science. The meeting witnessed a review of prospects for enhancing aspects of bilateral cooperation between the two countries. The two sides praised the coordination that has taken place at the highest levels since the outbreak of the novel coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic that led to the signing of the joint manufacturing agreement for the Chinese-developed Sinovac vaccine in Egypt. El-Sisi expressed his aspiration to continue the fruitful cooperation between the two countries at all levels in an effort to strengthen international efforts during the pandemic. The president also stressed Egypt's keenness to benefit from China's expertise in supporting development programs, activities, and national projects in the country. This is especially in light of the modern infrastructure that Egypt now enjoys, which is integrated with China's Belt and Road Initiative. El-Sisi also referred to the important role played by the Chinese-Egyptian Economic and Trade Cooperation Zone in the Suez Canal Economic Zone (SCC) zone as a successful model for investment cooperation between the two countries. During the bilateral meeting, the two sides also discussed the latest developments in the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam GERD issue. El-Sisi reiterated Egypt's firm position to preserve its water security, represented by its historical rights to River Nile waters. This will take place through reaching a binding legal agreement to fill and operate the dam that achieves the interests of all in a fair manner. Wang made clear his country's full understanding of the River Nile's utmost importance to Egypt and highlighted China's continued interest in finding a solution to this issue in a manner that meets the interests of all parties. Shukri reviewed Egypt and Sudan's position as the two downstream countries, which highlights the need to preserve the interests of all parties. The two countries are also keen to highlight the need for no harm to their water security to take place. He noted the importance of engaging in enhanced negotiations under the auspices of the African Union, the AU. This aims to reach a binding legal agreement to fill and to operate the controversial dam, whilst taking into account the interests of all parties. Shukri stressed the importance of China's position on this issue, which has a significant impact on Egypt's interests and national security. The two sides exchanged in-depth views on the Palestinian issue as a central issue in the Middle East. This requires a comprehensive, just and lasting solution to it within the framework of compatibility with all references and resolutions of international legitimacy. Earlier, a round of political talks were held, chaired by Shukri and Wang, where the two sides emphasized the country's commitment to the comprehensive strategic partnership and discussed regional and international issues of mutual concern. After the talks, the two sides signed an agreement to establish the Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee between Egypt and China. The committee constitutes one of the frameworks concerned with guiding, evaluating, and reviewing the course of cooperation relations between the two countries in various fields and at various levels.
Right, welcome back, and we're still 0-0 Egypt, Cameroon, because we're following up with you. And we're still on President Sisi's visit to China to attend the 24th edition of the Winter Olympics. To highlight the issue, we have with us over the phone Ambassador Ahmed Waili, former Assistant Foreign Minister. Good evening to you, Your Excellency. Hello. Hello.
Hello, yes.
Yes, Ambassador Waili, good evening to you.
Yes.
Yes. Your Excellency, we're speaking here about the President's visit to China and would-be summit talks between President Sisi and the Chinese President in China. What are our expectations to the agenda of the talks?
Of course, this visit is very important because our President Sisi, he was very keen to support China in the opening of Olympiad, which some other country boycotted. Egypt and China has a very long stand on the history of cooperation and in many aspects. So this, I think, this will add a new dimension of this policy in many aspects, like in industrial and agriculture and economic. You see, and this is something very well known for a long time, that Egypt supporting China in many aspects, like entering the United Nations and the Security Council. And at the same time, we exchange support in the Palestinian problem, and also concerning the Ethiopian dam. We are expecting that we keep this long-standing support exchanging between our two countries. You see. Also,
yes.
yes.
Yes, Your Excellency, a number of issues, political ones as well as economic ones, are waiting for the summit talks between the President and the Chinese President. If we spoke about the political talks that we are expecting, then we're speaking about a big power like China discussing with a big power, regional power like Egypt, ongoing developments, world developments, at the backdrop of very critical circumstances passing by the whole world. So what do we expect their agenda to be topped with?
You know, it is all the good relation in political aspect have to be reflected in economic cooperation. We are waiting to have many new projects, Chinese projects. We're expecting a new tourists from Chinese coming back as it is before. Egypt is very open mind for all cooperation with China and ready to facilitate everything concerning this matter. And I think, as you can see, how it is, we're very successful, all the projects in Egypt.
Yes. One important issue is the existence of China in Africa. And during last year's visit of the Chinese foreign minister, the president was keen to reiterate Egypt's position towards the issue of the Ethiopian dam. How far do you view a role that could be played by China in this domain?
You see, we are expecting from China to support the Egyptian stand, because what we ask for, we have to concrete agreement to be objected for how to operate this dam. And I think China must know that this is very crucial matter, because we expect that this dam can affect our life. It is not a matter of just for going well. No, there must be. For this, we are looking for China to support Egypt in this matter, which is we are supporting all successful for Ethiopia. We are not against this, but also we have to be concluded and to be this matter. You see, this is a very crucial matter, and I think China taking care of this matter in all her contact, whether in with African or within Security Council.
On the economic side, the president, when he received the Chinese foreign minister, expressed Egypt's keenness to benefit from China's expertise or expertise in supporting development programs, activities, national projects in the country, particularly the infrastructure, which goes in parallel to the Road and Belt way, or the Road and Belt Initiative. How far, on the economic side, Egypt and China could see a kind of qualitative cooperation, particularly in this field?
You see, Egypt is very open-minded, and to have a strong relation and a position with African countries. But also always said that Chinese have a priority and have to have a cooperation with African country, because China is the only country you have no colonial history. All the Western countries have a colonial history, but the Chinese is clean in this matter. For this, all what Egypt always is a very good connected between to a bridge between Chinese and cooperation with the African country.
Right. What's your expectations, sir, to the upcoming growing role of China in Africa, the Arab world, and particularly with Egypt?
We in Egypt have a good expectation, the Chinese cooperation with Africa. Because as I told you, China has a very good position with Africa. For this, I think they have an open mind between the other country, and also take care of this matter with our friends of Africa.
Right. Ambassador Ahmed Waili, former Assistant Foreign Minister, thank you so much for being with us over the phone and for your input here. And now we move to discussing the first half of Egypt's match with Cameroon in the African semis, where the Pharaohs are meeting or facing the Cameroon. So before we move on with our discussion, let's have this quick report and we'll come back.
Egypt take on Cameroon in a game that will determine who will face Senegal in the African Cup of Nations 2021 or AFCON 2021 in the tournament 33rd edition. African Cup of Nations, after its headline sponsor and sometimes as African Cup of Nations, is the main international men's association competition in Africa. It is sanctioned by the Confederation of African Football, CAF, and was first held in 1957. Since 1968, it has been held every 2 years, switching to odd-numbered years in 2013. The current champion is Algeria, who won their second title at the 2019 tournament in Egypt. Since the establishment of the African Cup of Nations, Egypt has been a frequent participant, having played in 25 of 33 AFCON editions, the most of all participants in African history. It was the 2000s witnessed the most successful Egyptian side in AFCON, as Egypt won the tournament back-to-back from 2006 to 2010, expanding the result to 7. An African record, Egypt then missed 3 AFCON editions from 2012 till 2015 before returning in 2017. Egypt is also the country that hosted the most AFCON editions, with 5 times. 3 of them ended with Egypt being crowned champions. The recent 2019 edition was hosted by Egypt, but the Pharaohs had a dismal performance, lost to South Africa, another former AFCON champions. 1-0 right at home turf in the round of 16, in spite of 3 group stage wins. Egypt is also the most successful nation in the Cup's history, winning the tournament 7 times. 3 trophies have been awarded during the tournament's history, with Ghana and Cameroon winning the first 2 versions to keep after each of them won a tournament 3 times. The current trophy was first awarded in 2002. Under Ahmed's CAF presidency, there were discussions regarding further changes to the African Cup of Nations. In July 2017, 2 changes were proposed. They switched the competition from January to the Northern Hemisphere summer, and the expansion from 16 to 24 teams. Current title holder is Algeria.
Right, welcome back. And the first half of the match has just finished 0-0 for both sides, where the Pharaohs are meeting the Cameroon or the Alliance at the semi-finals at the 33rd edition of the African Nations Cup. And we have with us over the phone Captain Mohamed Adel, sports analyst. We thank you so much for being with us.
It's my pleasure, thank you.
So I haven't been hearing the match, but or rather I wasn't watching, but I was hearing here from my colleagues outside what's going on. So it seems that the match is taking several heights. How do you analyze the situation or the first half of the match?
Well, we are depending on the defensive way of thinking. Karis Roche depends on defense. There is a big gap between the midfield line and the offensive line. We have only 2 attempts to Cameroon's goal, but Cameroon had many dangerous attempts to score. But we can say bad luck for Cameroon and a good game from Mohamed Abu Gabal, who did great in the first half. But there is a big gap between the midfield line and the offensive line, Mohamed Salah, Mustafa Mohamed, and Omar Mamouche, and the 3 players of the midfield line, Hamdi Fathi, Amr Soulaya, and Mohamed Nini. There is a big gap. There is no offensive attempts, many offensive attempts from the Egyptian team. But for now, we are drawn. We hope in the second half the situation will be better than the first half.
Right, I'll ask you about the second half and what we should be focusing on. But let me first take here some of the remarks that were seen by some of our audience here. Some violent actions from the Camerooni side, a little bit of how can I say that in a diplomatic way?
There is a violence, yes, but it's not on purpose. It's aerial duels and ground duels between the players. We have Mahmoud Hamdi, which has injured, but it's not on purpose at all. So we can judge in a fair way. We can put the right word. It's not on purpose, but there is some injuries for Egypt. There are some not that right decisions from the referee, Bakary Gassama. Omar Kamal, unfortunately, will not play the next game, whether it will be the final, inshallah, or the third-ranked game. But in general, Cameroon is better than Egypt in the first half. They are had the most possession of the ball throughout the first half. We should put some sort of vital decisions from Carlos Queiroz to minimize the gap between the midfield line and the offensive line so as to go to Cameroon's goal and have many attempts so we can score. We have a counter-attack, but we were very, very slow to reach Cameroon's goal. It was very near from being a goal, but the players were not ready for the counter-attack. I believe Queiroz will
Can we say
some
that,
solutions. Sorry?
Can we say that this could be a kind of tactique? I mean here that slowing a little bit in the first half of the match in order not to tire our players, and then we'll see another plan during the second half of the match. Are we supposed to be focusing on certain issues and changes during the next half?
Well, the changes of the plan or the way of playing of the players will happen in the second half, but depending on the draw for the first half, could cost us 1 goal or 2 goals for Cameroon. So there were some faults by the players. The places they are marching in were not that right. There were 2 very dangerous attempts by Cameroon in the penalty box of Egypt, but it's done safe, alhamdulillah. So we hope in the second half to minimize the gap between the lines, to be compact, to be near each other, and we wish the Egyptian team all the best in the second half, or even in the additional time if there is additional half, third or fourth half.
If with God's will, inshallah, Egypt wins, we will be.
We all hope.
Yes, we hope, and we are praying for that. If that happens and Egypt would meet Senegal, that would be one of 3 matches that Egypt will be encountering Senegal.
Yes.
One in the final here and one for qualifying for the World Cup.
Yes.
So how are we supposed to be preparing for those matches?
Well, for like Egypt win tonight, they will play the final. I will play the final, whomever the other team will be. Senegal, Cameroon, whoever. I will play the final, so I will be concentrating on the final game, whomever I play against. It will be some sort of luck to play versus Senegal in the African final with their full team before going to the final World Cup qualifiers.
Yes.
I believe it will be a very hard game if it happens.
Yes.
It will be very hard. Senegal is a very respectful team. They have many talented players. Sadio Mane,
Yes.
Khalid Koulibaly, Mendy, Edouard Mendy, the goalkeeper of Chelsea. They have many players. 3 tough games in.
It will be a tough game indeed.
We are talking about 2 months. It will be very hard and very harsh, but we are.
It will be, but we
in a very hard time. We are in the inshallah. If we win, we will be in the final. It will be in the final World Cup qualification.
Yes, yes, Captain Mohamed Adel. Yes, it will be a tough game, but we are all confident of our team, and we are praying and we are crossing our hands and we are doing everything. We all hope for our team to win tonight, and we'll be awaiting for them in the finals. We are all confident of our team. Many thanks for watching, and please continue watching our team till the end. Many thanks.